Here we are again, back in the saddle, suburban Washington, D.C., almost late for the garage party, so we're going to see how fast this sumbitch will go.
and make me a sled. Nobody rides without a red. Ida Red, she lives in town, weighs 440 pounds. Going up Shoe Creek, going in a run. Going up Shoe Creek and have a little fun. Ida Red, she's a darn old fool, trying to put a saddle on a humpback mule. Up the road and across the creek, can't get a letter but once a week. Going up Shoe Creek, going in a run. Going up Shoe Creek and have a little fun. Going up Shoe Creek, going in a run. Take my razor and a Gatling gun. Going up Shoe Creek, going in a run. Going up Shoe Creek and have a little fun. Going up Shoe Creek, going in a run. Take my razor and a Gatling gun.
doesn't mean you'll be saved. Sacrifice against time. I'll make my sacrifice against time. I'll make my It's hard to live with the burden of truth when the sleepers just won't wake. You know it's bigger than yourself, and you can't just go your way. When you're living for something more, oh, the risk that oh, the risk you will take. The risk you will take. The risk you will take. Sacrifice against time. I'll make my sacrifice against time. I'll make my take us to nowhere, instructing to destroy what's there. Advancement of the decadent, not knowing where we all stand. This is a time of the wandering west. Words have no meaning with the translation gone. History written and the story's wrong. The day is short and the night is long. Please help me dig us out of the graves that we walked on down.
them write the history of this monster. Here, a big warning is in the sky for all of us. That all of these anti-white bastards came to the whites of South Africa with their clever anti-white arguments. And they said this is about peace and equality. This is about just making sure that none of the little brown and black babies suffer. This is just about making sure that everybody who works hard can have their chance in the world. And we have done them so wrong. You should feel so bad over how wrong we did them by building this great civilization and then allowing them to enter it. You should feel so bad about it, and so you should give up your rights. You should give up everything that you need to ensure your safety and your well-being in the present and moving forward, so that you can just have this equality, so that the little brown and black babies can stop crying. Remember those arguments, folks, because those are the arguments that have led to the dispossession of jobs, of education, of land, of rights, of mass raping, of mass murders of our people, the abduction of white children. Remember those arguments, folks, because those are the arguments that have led to the dispossession of jobs, of education, of land, of rights, of mass raping, of mass murders of our people, the abduction of white children, and the torture of them, the torture of wives and children in front of their fathers and husbands and brothers, so that they could see the hell before these monsters finally murdered them. That was the arguments. Those were the arguments that were made, and this is the result. To the whites of South Africa with their clever anti-white arguments. And they said this is about peace and equality. Of mass murders of our people, the abduction of white children, and the torture of them. And they said this is about peace and equality. This is about peace and equality. Peace and equality. Let's not let them write the history of this monster and the monsters that join him in the ever-increasing white erasure of our people in that country. And a big message here, a big warning is in the sky for all of us. And let's indeed write it in the sky for all to see.
I wanted to address what you said about religion and how that relates to going free. And this is why I find that to be a clown and a fake and someone who, like many others, are going to be using the lexicon in the future because they know that if they don't, they're going to be left behind. Religion and how that relates to going free.
This fantastic piece by Raymond Foster has spurred me to share Anglo-Americans' personal testimony of going free. I'm going to do that now, and then we'll come back to this piece.
Hey guys, how's it going? Anglo-America here. In today's video, I would like to talk about my story of going free. To start off with my story, I would like to first talk about how I came to the white positive sphere and what was my life like before I started to go free. Before I started to go free, I was going through many phases in my life. But throughout those phases, I found nothing but meaningless pursuits. I became despaired with the state of the world and just society in general, and I was kind of disgusted with the behavior that people engage in nowadays. The behavior that just absolutely rejects things like kinship and family and belonging. So since most people had those kind of attitudes, I just kind of gave up on the state of the world and society, that I just kind of threw it all away and went my own way. Then I started to follow very dark, I guess you could say, philosophies, such as like nihilism. Just philosophies that literally just are based on throwing in the towel and just giving up on anything, because everything is meaningless, or at least this is what you've seen around you, so you kind of got sucked into it. So with all the things happening in my life and just the absolute nihilism that was going on, I started to gravitate towards things like MGTOW. I gravitated towards MGTOW communities because I felt like in those communities that there was the same people that had the same problems as me, if that made any sense. The MGTOW community seems to be the kind of communities that like have people who see the world for what it is, but they go towards more of a black pill approach to the system that's going on. However, it's easy to give up on the system and just say, you know, screw it all. But in the end, none of this made me happy. The constant individualism and isolation only made me lonely. There was not really any sense of community in things such as MGTOW, or the constant pursuit of individualism and standing on my own and rejecting any sort of help from anybody. The individualism that I was pursuing only leads me to isolation. So when I was at my lowest of lows, I didn't really have anybody to talk to about my issues. No support group whatsoever. Then I started to go through a major depression phase and started to drink a lot. And in those moments I really felt like it was just the end of the world. But then I stumbled upon the community of White Wellbeing and the White Positive Sphere, starting reading into some of the things they have to say, or just the general positive philosophies I found within the White Positive Sphere. Specifically, what was more of a positive approach was the community focused on going free of the mean pathogens that affect Western kind. I found that all the things I was suffering, all of the nihilism, all of the angst, I guess, all stemmed from a system that is meant to weigh me down as a Westman. Things such as the MGTOW movement is used by Antiwhiteism to essentially, it was there to make Westmen hate Western women and sort of have this gender loyalty amongst Western kind. And this could also be said for feminism also. So started to unveil the little things, the very little things, meme pathogens, that were part of the anti-white narrative. And once I did that, my life started to get better. I started to see my life in a new light, in a new perspective. It was as though I had literally weight lifted off my shoulders and I can finally have my head up and look to what many in the white positive sphere term the Western sunrise. And since I took that perspective, as compared to what my life was like back then, that being my lack of ambition to pursue things such as career or even establish a family and have a life. I didn't want to live back then. Essentially, I didn't want to live a life. And once I started going free, I wanted to pursue something greater than myself. I wanted to be like the heroes of old. Just seeing the obstacles in front of them and literally take them on headstrong and accomplish what they wanted to. I was a Westman. With that, I was proud. Now, currently, I am actually a law student, and I am working on, obviously, going to be a lawyer and whatnot, but I am also working on starting a family too, raising up for things like a house and in the countryside, of course, but I won't say where for confidentiality reasons. But needless to say, since going free, my life essentially took a 180. I turned my life entirely around from what it was before. And to any of you listening right now, this same spirit that motivated me to change my life since going free is the same spirit that lives in you. That is the biospirit, the spirit of Western kind. So, my question for you is, with my own testimony in mind, will it be you who goes free, makes a change in your life for the better?
I wanted to address what you said about religion and how that relates to going free. And this is why I find that to be a clown and a fake and someone who, like many others, are going to be using the lexicon in the future because they know that if they don't, they're going to be left behind. religion and how that relates to going free. He refers to Native European symbolism as goofy symbology. He says that we need to fight you too, as in the pagans, pagan culture. And when he says pagan, you know he's talking about Native European religions. And you can choose your religion. We follow the master principle. But your God better bend the knee to White Wellbeing. Better bend the knee to White Wellbeing. Religion and how that relates to going free.
Right. All of these sorts of things must be, or differences of opinion, etc., must be set aside, and we must be understanding of each other and willing to interpret whatever it may be, whether it's atheism or Catholicism or any of the different pagan threads, interpret it all, just as you said, Mr. B, through the lens of Antiwhiteism, because then it will always serve whatever it is. Then our people will always serve whatever it is, our people. We should not be dividing ourselves. We should not be dividing ourselves. We need to remember that all of these old vehicles, religion, political ideology, and all of these things have failed. They have all failed. They've all been defeated by Antiwhiteism. We need to move forward with this, with what's working, and be respectful, as you said. I mean, if others are not using the lexicon, ultimately we believe, since we are having the successes, that they will be left behind.
And just wanted to put that out there. We can't have this kind of nonsense.
On his deathbed, Voltaire was asked to renounce Satan, to which he answered, "There's no time for making new enemies."
DJ Boxcar, get in the bass.
The heavenly journey begins with a few. The heavenly journey begins. The heavenly journey begins. 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 Begins. The heavenly journey begins with a few key components. The DVD, the CD, the LD, the DVR, the VCR, audio receiver, AV cables, TV cables, satellite dish with satellite, the Blu-ray, the Blu-ray, the Blu-ray, the Hi-Fi IY, HDMI, the heebie-jeebies, and E equals MC squared. Oh, don't forget the all-important sub. Woofer. subwoofer.
DJ Boxcar getting the bass.
The modern sound system includes a multitude of speakers to provide the perfectly balanced soundscape. The center channel. Left and right front speakers. A bit more to the left and a bit more to the
Sorry
right
about that. I
Surround
apologize.
speakers. Surrounding surround speakers. And various overkill to ensure eventual deafness speakers. Subwoofer.